Hey, everybody. I'm Rebecca from Thieving at Our Farm,
And I'm Leah with Southern Biophiliac Urban Farm.
and we are two Chix Coturnix bringing you the scoop
Not the poop.
on Coturnix quail. So, today we wanted to talk to you about quail math.
Yeah, there's a lot of
There's,
math.
there's a lot of math, there's a lot of
It doesn't
numbers,
always add up, but there's a lot of math.
right? Okay, so people, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about chicken math. And chicken math is where you get, you're like, oh, I think I'm going to get chickens and I'm going to get, like, oh, look at these cute chicks. I'll get 10 chicks.
I
And
started with 4.
yeah, yeah, I started with 10. That's why I chose that number. Actually, this recent bout, I've had chickens forever, but this recent bout when I decided after I moved and got everything set up that I was going to have chickens again, and I got 10. And did you have other birds before you got those 4?
In the past, but like when we started with the chickens, I just started with 4. And I had to
Okay.
have barred rocks. Like
So
that's what I wanted. Yeah,
4 chickens.
4. And that was gonna be it.
No other poultry.
Nope.
Yeah, me neither. So you're 4, my 10. And then oh, what, 5 years later for me, I now have probably I'm at that number of chickens that I don't really know how many chickens I have.
Yeah, we
Probably
don't
like
count. It's kind of like asking someone what their age is.
yeah, yeah,
We just
it's,
don't ask about numbers.
the first rule about chicken club is that you don't talk about chicken club.
Right.
So yeah, so now I have an unknown number of chickens. I have turkeys, emus, ducks, geese, and oh, I don't know, about 3,500 quail. It's
I
all
think the
about
only thing on your list that I'm missing is an emu, so that might have to change.
yeah, and you've got pheasants too, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
different kinds of quail.
Yeah, we have the snowflake bob whites.
Yeah, what else do you have that I don't have?
I I think it's just the emu.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So here we are. You had 4,
Yep.
and that was it.
That was
4
gonna be
barred
it.
rock. I
Nothing
had
else.
10. And now my feed bill is like 3 times my mortgage. That is chicken math.
Yep.
So today we're going to talk about quail math.
Yes.
Um,
It's just
what
as
are
dangerous.
what are the numbers that are involved with quail? And we have a couple of different subjects to talk about. Leah, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. So a big question I get asked all the time is like, how many roosters do I need for X amount of hens?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a super common question because, of course, everyone wants to get rid of the roosters. And actually, in our last episode, we talked about saving the males.
Yep.
So if you haven't seen that one, you should check it out. But generally, like I know I run 1 male to about 5 hens.
Yep. And you can do smaller, breeding groups. I know that when I'm working on a project, I might occasionally do, 1-to-1, one rooster to 1 hen, or a trio or whatever. So you can do other numbers, but for just basic breeding, you're going to be looking at 1 rooster covering 5 to 6 hens.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so another one along those lines is how many birds per square foot of cage space?
That's a
So,
question I see a lot. I'll get a picture of somebody's cage and they're like, what can I put in here?
yep, yep. And so we need more numbers. We need to know like length and width. We need to know how many square feet are in that cage. So the old way that the old kind of way that people would tell people to go by was 1 bird per square foot. But unfortunately, that caused a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems really nice. You're like, wow, these birds are going to have a lot of room. But quail can get territorial. And at 1 bird per square foot, they're able to set up territories, but not able to stay out of each other's territories.
Yeah.
So you get a
And
lot of
then you get some very upset quail.
yes, you get bickering, you get fighting, you get scalping, you get all kinds of stuff that you would prefer not to have. So to avoid that, back to the numbers, you want 2 to 4 birds per square foot. And this kind of varies based on the size of the bird. You know, you might want 2 jumbos versus 4 standards. Um, and it also depends on the temperament of the bird. So I've been able to do 1 bird per square foot if they're really nice birds that, you know, have been bred for really good temperament. But, you know, if you start seeing that your birds are squabbling and you're having trouble and you're getting frustrated, they're getting frustrated, sometimes adding more birds can help.
Yep. That way nobody has a chance to claim territories.
Yep. Yep. They you know, there are no, like Leah just said, there are no territories, there's less fighting. And it's crazy how everybody just gets along.
So, another question I get asked a lot is how many hens do I need to feed my family?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. So I get that one a lot. And generally, like average, 3 quail eggs will equal a chicken egg. So you've got to take, how many people are in your family, how many eggs you eat a week. And then for each family member, I generally say get at least 3 hens. That way you're getting an egg a day. But if you eat a lot of eggs, you might want more.
Yep, absolutely. What are your thoughts, since we're on that subject, what are your thoughts on like keeping birds for your own meat production? How many of those should you have?
So that's really going to be dependent on how many meals you're going to want to eat of quail. So generally, like a person will generally have 2 birds at a meal. If they like to eat, they might have more. But if you keep that in mind, and then how many you want to put in the freezer for storage purposes, generally about 2 birds per person.
Yep. Times how many people live in the household, times how often you want to eat those birds.
Yep.
Yep. Um, okay, so another thing that people ask is how many eggs should I purchase if I am going to have eggs shipped to me and hatch them out at home? So this
Yeah.
involves quite a bit of math.
Yeah. This involves a lot of math.
So first of all, you kind of want to have an idea of how many hens you want to end up with. So we're going to work backwards a little bit. So let's say I want to have 10 hens. Okay. Now I have to figure in that if I have 10 hens hatch out, I'm probably going to have, give or take, 10 roosters hatch out. So that already brings me up to 20 eggs. Now, the industry average for shipped eggs is a 50% hatch. Now, that's an average. You could have 100% hatch, you could have a 0.
Yeah.
But if you go with 50%, then now you're going to want to double that amount. So you want to, if you want 10 hens, your best way to be safe is to order 40 eggs.
Yep.
Yeah. And maybe we should talk a minute about why the industry average is 50%.
Southern Biophiliac Urban Farm. Life and love connect. Where careful and thoughtful selection is maintained to bring you quality birds that are vibrant, good-natured, and productive. We continuously strive to move the industry forward through research and education, ensuring that we bring you birds that will provide you with years full of healthy food, fun experiences, and the freedom that self-sufficiency brings.
Thieving Otter Farm. We breed for temperament and health, and take pride in happy birds, with a goal that each generation is better than the last. so that you can be just as proud of our birds as we are. Okay, so why is that industry average 50% on hatched egg or shipped eggs? And that is because those shipped eggs, they are going to be subject to all kinds of shipping trauma. So, first, those eggs, a lot of people think that, you put a fragile sticker on it or a sticker saying, live embryos or hatching eggs or something
Don't
like
X-ray
that.
me.
Yeah, stuff like that. So what happens is they actually put the box in a cart in like a big bin, and those get wheeled onto the truck. And then they go to a sorting facility and they dump that bin upside down on a conveyor belt. And most of the sorting nowadays is done by AI. And they're scanning those labels and stuff, and they'll have to tumble the boxes sometimes to get to the label, and the boxes are tumbling on the conveyor belts, and then there's little arms that are flipping them one way and next, and so they're being sorted multiple times because they're being taken to whatever hub, and then they go some to another hub, and then they're sorted again and put
Some get to
taken.
go by airplane, some get to go on the
Yes.
truck, some get heat exposure, cold exposure. The list goes on and on.
Exactly. So they're getting shook, dropped, tumbled, vibrated, x-rayed, exposed to heat and temperature, humidity changes, all the above. So, and then also delays.
Yes.
Delays. Can we say this again? Delays. So, and all of this is stuff that's outside of the control of the shipper, of the seller, I should say. And so all of those things can damage the embryo, can dislodge the air cell. There's all these things that can happen. And people will say, oh, my eggs weren't fertilized. No, actually, they were fertilized. They just didn't develop because they had been damaged.
Yep.
Yep. So then to add more numbers to that, average of 50%, then you have to look at what happens when they get to the purchaser, the person who's going to incubate those eggs. There's so many things that can happen. Were the eggs rested before? Did they candle them and flip them this way and that, or let their kids hold them? Did they wait to put them in the incubator for days, until their incubator arrived, or, the eggs that were in there were done? There's just so many things. We actually did an entire video on this, so maybe I should stop talking about it. We do have a troubleshooting your hatch video and an incubating video, but all of these things go into that 50% and whether or not you have a successful hatch, which, goes back to the whole thing of, how many eggs you should potentially purchase if you want a certain number of birds.
Yes. And going back to the shipping part, like when we talk about the delays,
yes.
This is what's important. So wherever you get your eggs from, you want to make sure that the breeder is sending fresh eggs, that they haven't been sitting around, because with them getting packed, getting shipped, if there are shipping delays, or if you get them home and you wait a few days to put them in the incubator, once those eggs reach day 10, they start dropping in viability.
Yeah, and that's about a 5 to 10% decrease in viability per day after day 10. So, day 11, it's not like all your eggs are bad. Like,
no,
I'm
it's
not
just
even
a
going to
few.
buy. So it's just a few. So if your eggs are delayed, make sure you put them in the incubator. Give it a chance. I sometimes get messages. I don't know if you ever do, Leah, where the eggs were, held up in shipping, and people say, should I even try to incubate these? Yes.
Always try.
There's nothing.
Nature is pretty amazing, so always give them a chance.
I have had eggs stuck in transit for 16 days that still produced a 50% hatch.
Yeah, I think my longest was 15, and I was close to 50.
Yep. Yep. So it's always worth a shot. Definitely.
Always. Now, the other thing for math, genetics.
Yes. Yes. So let's talk about this.
We're going to really math it up now.
Yeah, we're going to get into numbers. Okay. So everybody wants to know why there isn't a chart for quail genetics. They want an easy chart that says if I breed this bird to this bird, this is what I get. So let's talk about that.
So right now, currently known, there is an estimated 23 plumage genes in circulation right now.
Yep. And each one of those genes can behave differently. So some are recessive and some are dominant, and then some are what's called incomplete dominant, where that gene actually has two different expressions. Like if you have one copy of the gene, it looks one way, and if you have another copy of the gene, it looks another way. So you got to factor those in too.
Yeah, and then if you're like us and you want to own all of these, that causes more math.
Yeah. Okay, so for the big math, if you have 23 known plumage genes, and then you also can have different expressions of those genes depending on how many copies of the genes you have, there are basically about 170,000 different gene combinations that are possible.
That we know about.
That would be one heck of a chart.
Yes. I think it would take a long time to produce all of those too, to put on a chart.
Yes. The other thing to think about is that there are always new gene combinations or genes popping up that are discovered. I know just in my time in quail that there's been let's see, Merle, Ginger, Cardoon. There's been a couple of like feather genes that have popped up, at least here on my farm. I had some chicks that were born naked, and I've got this other little secret thing that's going on. Not gonna share yet. But can you think of anything else? If I missed any genes that have been discovered?
Oh gosh. Well, I know, just that there's some that aren't being talked about yet.
Yeah, that's true. And then there's Benino Splash from Italy. I'm not sure when that was discovered either, if that's been since I've been in quail. But basically, just in the short time that I've been in quail, multiple genes have been discovered. So that's another thing about having a book or a chart or something like that. We just keep adding more stuff to it.
Yeah. We can't even keep up.
Let's see. If we're going to talk numbers, how many quail do you think you have?
Me?
Yeah.
I said we don't talk about this.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
The math is mathing.
We don't want our significant others to hear these numbers. Okay. Well, Leah, I can't think of any more good math numbers to talk about. How about you?
Just that I need more cages.
Always more square footage of barn space, more cages.
Another incubator.
Yes. Yes, all of that. Well, before we go today, I want to thank some people. I would like to thank Josh Kaler, who provided our theme music, and you can find Josh Kaler at joshkaler.com. And Ariel Parker has provided our logo and some of our graphic design. And Ariel's at Savage Daughter Farm. So thank you all for joining us.
Make sure to like and subscribe.
And have a great night.
Bye.